Thank you for joining this event of Institute of Chinese Engineers Australia. It's my honor to host this event and talk with 4 extraordinary panelists. Please allow me to introduce a little bit about myself. My name is Xinyu Dai, and my colleague is Commission. I'm an electrical engineer working in PSD Energy based in Adelaide. I'm also a committee member of ICEA, leading the South Australia community. Now, for people who are not quite familiar with ICEA, now let me talk about it. Yeah, and change the slides. So we are an engineering society that values knowledge sharing, business opportunities, and career development. So we help members to develop skills, build the bridge for businesses, and boost career development. And that's the reason we have today's event. Since registered in 2018, we have connected to thousands of engineers and engineering students. We keep sharing in social media and expanding networks across Australia. Our members are from key engineering companies of all fields of engineering in Australia. So in previous events, we have had online ones for industry analysis, project case studies, and skill trainings. Also, we have offline events of networking, and we are organizing more in the future. If you don't mind, please let us know about your demanding. So now, let's look at today's topic, which is focused on career development. We have invited 4 panelists who are also mentors of the leading program. They are Qing Qiu, Dr. Wang Haiming, Nicole Brown, and Dr. Wang Bo. We will start with reviewing the leading program, then discuss common questions we found through the program. During the discussion, please, if you don't mind, leave a message and your question to the panelists via the chat function down there on the Zoom interface. At the end of this event, we will try to answer them. By the way, dear audience, please get prepared. Get prepared to put yourself on the screen, on the camera. I hope at the end of this event, you are still here and we can all turn on the camera and have a group picture. So get prepared for that, please. Well, for those who want to know more about the leading program, we have this summary here. Yes, on this slide. So the leading program is also known as 同袍计划 in Chinese. It has been online for more than a year. So during this time, we have built mentorship for over 100 students. The topics covered by the program include career planning, CV editing, interview coaching. From the pie chart, it is clear that the majority of the mentees are graduates, followed by students. But from my personal opinion, I really hope and strongly suggest that please build your mentorship as early as possible. You are never too young or too experienced to benefit from a mentor. Remember, leading program leads every engineer to career success. Now, we should start talking about our panelists. We merely have some information about them on these slides. So everyone, would you please introduce yourself? So maybe we start from Dr. Haiming. Would you like to start?
Thank you, John, and good evening, everyone. It's my honor and great pleasure to be here with you and share some of my experience, in the engineering industry with all of you. And I'm hopeful when we finish this section, whether or not you can have some takeaway from either from me or from the rest of the group. So I'm Haiming Wang. I'm the principal electrical engineer at the New South Wales Telco Authority. Also work as the electrical and solar SME, looking after the end-to-end site delivery, operation, and the incorporation of innovative technologies into the organization. Probably I would like to add a few more things about the New South Wales Telco Authority. It's not really an organization that's very well known to the audience, I assume. So it's sort of like it's like a New South Wales, part of the New South Wales government and the service New South Wales. It's sort of like a statutory or sort of authority within the department and controlled by the managing director in accordance with the policies advised by the New South Wales Telco Authority Advisory Board. The main functionality of this organization is to look after the emergency telecommunication network. It's about life or death. It's just to ensure, all the agencies, including police, fire, ambulance, and like all the emergency services, they have the access to the telecommunication network. I guess that's it, and I'm hopeful I can exchange more with all of you very soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Doctor. It's so impressive. We will talk about your mixed experience later. Now, shall we move on and meet our next speaker, Nicole? Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Brown. I'm currently a structural engineer at Aecom and was invited to speak today by Peter, who is one of the committee members from Melbourne. So I just wanted to thank Peter for inviting me to speak today. It's a great opportunity to share my experience, and I hope that you all gain something from what I can share. So, as I mentioned, I am a structural engineer. I have about 5 years experience in industry. I started as a graduate in a small company and moved to Aecom about 2 years ago. So my experiences range from very small projects to very large infrastructure projects. Aside from my full-time work as a structural engineer, I am very heavily involved in a few different volunteer organisations. So while I was at university, I was the global CEO of a not-for-profit called RoboGals, which encouraged more women to pursue and study engineering. And currently I volunteer with Engineers Australia I'm the vice chair of the National Young Engineers Group and the Australian representative on the International Young Engineers Group. So I have experience working with engineers from all around the world, and that's what I love doing. I love meeting people, sharing experiences and learning from each other. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak today, and hopefully I'll be able to share some insightful information with you all. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Nico. No doubt you will share more later from your bountiful experience. Now, shall I invite Dr. Wang Bo to introduce yourself? Would you, please?
Hey, yeah, sure. Hey, my name is Bo Wang. So I'm actually a bit different from the rest of the speakers because I'm actually from the IT field instead of engineering. But I did my PhD actually in engineering, and also I guess in the last year of my PhD, I realized I have more interest in the I guess the data science kind of field. So actually took a master's degree in Sydney and actually changed my career path from engineering to kind of IT combined field. As some of you may know that data science is a multi-discipline field. So usually we'll incorporate some domain knowledge and also computer science and also mathematics knowledge as well. So currently I'm working as a data scientist in DXC technology. For those who does not know DXC, so DXC technology is the biggest system integrator in Australia. So we proactively engage our partners like AWS, Google, Microsoft, and other big vendors to provide services to a lot of Australian companies, including some of the Australian leading retail company like Barnes, and also government entities and also banks. Like the current project I'm working at is at CBA to provide some data insights to their facilities. So we'll talk about some of the details later. It's my great honor to talk about some of my experience in the past, especially I used to be, I guess, an engineering student. Now I'm actually working as an IT professional. So if you have, I guess, similar kind of vision in your future, feel free to post some of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Let's talk about your change of profession in the following discussion. Now, last but not least, Qing, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so my name is Qing Qiu, and I'm a graduate structural engineer working at Smec at the moment. And I graduated from USW 1.5 years ago, and my major is civil engineering. So after graduation, I've been involved in many big projects like Crow's Nest, that's a station, and I'm also involved in Metro West tender at the moment. Also, I'm working on upgrading one of the rail station now. Yeah, and I had some experience with graduate program and also received interview from CMEC, WSP, and Telco. So thanks for your invitation, and I hope I can share my experience with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Qing. Thank you, all the mentors. You all have been a mentor, short or long. So would you like to share with us your journey of becoming a mentor, such as opportunities you took or your ways of maybe self-developing so that you can provide enough support to your mentees? So what's your stories? Now, this time, shall we start from Nico?
Sure. So myself, I've been a mentor for a few years now in a range of different capacities. So I'd say, firstly, when I was at my previous company coming in as a graduate, I was the youngest in my team. So when I was starting out and when I was learning, I took as much information as possible from other people. But when I was in the company for a year, the next lot of graduates came through. And so I took the opportunity to reach out to the graduates and ask if they would like to have a mentee-mentor relationship. So it was something that was not set up by the company, but an opportunity that I thought would be beneficial to share what I've learned in my first year with someone else that was starting in the same position. So that was a very informal relationship, and we still keep in touch today, even though we're both now working at different companies. But in terms of, I guess, external mentorship programs, I have been involved in 2 in the last 2 years, and they've been building relationships or working as a mentor for 6 months periods. So I mentored with the RoboGals alumni program and was paired with a current student studying engineering and about to graduate. And I also mentored through the University of Melbourne Master of Engineering mentor program at the end of last year, and worked with someone who was also just about to graduate. And I worked with them both to find a job and review resumes and provide some advice on interview techniques, what to look for, how to research, or how to find what type of company that would suit you. So it's been really exciting and extremely rewarding from my standpoint to be able to support the development of somebody else. So I look forward to continuing that through the ICEA this year.
Thank you, Nico. And maybe Dr. Bo. So what's your story?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I should start with my job as a tutor in UNSW. So when I was doing my PhD, so PhD students usually take a tutor as a part-time job. So I did a tutoring several courses. I really find that myself enjoyed that experience, and also then down the line, when I changed my profession from engineering to IT, I realized actually a lot of people, I guess students who's studying engineering want to maybe just try a different field. For example, data science has been a really popular and hot field in nowadays, and I guess a lot of engineering does not know how to actually start the study and how actually, get into the field. So I met some of the students before. They're not only coming from engineering, but also coming from commerce or other fields. So I would say, sorry, can the host mute Evan? Yeah, thank you. So I'll continue. So I really seeing people saying, okay, because data science need programming skill and needs a lot of mathematic knowledge to undertake the work. So they're a bit afraid of this field and they think they can't really do it. But after I have, basically break down all the knowledges you need and all the skill set you need to capture, they realize that it's not a job that cannot be finished. I would say, for example, let's say programming language. Most of the engineers have experience with MATLAB, and some of you have, I guess, nowadays with VBA or C programming language. I mean, this language is not easy to learn, to be honest. Nowadays, data science usually use Python. To be honest, I think Python is much easier than I guess C or MATLAB. So and also in terms of mathematical knowledge, most of the engineers has learned statistics in their university course. So I think you do have the prerequisite to enter in the new field. And look at this, most of the companies are talking about digitalization, a lot of these traditional companies. So I guess although you might not be, work as a data scientist, but you can work as a, engineer with data insights. So I think it's actually a good opportunity for you to grab some of the knowledge and some of the skill sets, and definitely will promote you. And I think that's also my, I guess, spirit of continuing mentoring students or young professionals to explore their, potential in this kind of new field.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, Qing, what's your story? What can you share about it?
Yeah, I was mentored since I'm in uni. So at the uni, I don't know if you know, like there is a society called Women in Engineering, and I'm a member of that. So each year we organize an event for high school girls. Like we play with them and we introduce them like with engineering subjects and try to encourage those girls to study engineering or scientists. Yeah, to give them more options. So I feel really I learned a lot of things from that experience. And then I also one of the demonstrators. So I really enjoy teaching people and helping people. So that's why after graduation, I joined this program to become one of the mentors. And like I just mentioned, like I have many interview experience with some big companies. So I feel it's really enjoyable to share my experience with people and to encourage people to try some challenge things that they may think is challenged, but I really want to encourage them and maybe they can do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So, I mean, would you like to talk about your experience on mentoring?
Sure. I think all the other three panelists, they have shared quite a lot of experience with regards to mentor. Personally, I have been lucky enough, to have taken few team leader roles previously, in multiple organizations and companies. As part of my team development, I have, always, like provide a mentorship to my team member, and it's very rewarding. Like what Nico just pointed out, it's sometimes you see your team members, grow and develop, either professionally or they have the skills or whatever. You just even their leadership, it's very fulfilled. It's just a sort of like fulfilling feeling. And yeah, so one thing I think I can share with you is in the last, in my last role, I was with Vision Stream, and under my supervision, there were about like 10 electrical engineers. And the first thing I did is I tried to push the team member, who are eligible to be an EA member or the chartership. I push them and just make sure, as many of them get chartered. So when I left the Vision Stream, and 3 out of I think 3 there are 3 new electrical engineer got chartered. It's just very rewarding again. And this year 2 of them like moved to other company, and they are also taking like team leader roles. I'm so glad to see they are also developing professionally, and they also a big step forward for their career paths as well. And similarly, I had a bit experience, in uni when I was doing my PhD. I had the opportunity to mentor some of the either like a postgraduate student or the undergraduate student as well. It's slightly different, but still it's the same, And I guess at the end of the day, as a mentor, the biggest thing is you must have that sort of like willingness to share either your professional experience or personal life experience, with the mentee. That's very important. But again, you need to accept the differences of the individual, not try to sort of like compel them or force them to accept whatever you would like to pass to them, which is very important. I think this is one thing I have learned, in the last few years. Yeah, I guess this is probably, what I can share with you about my experiences with the mentoring is, in the last 20 years, I would say that. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. It's amazing. And I can presume that many engineers will come to you about becoming chartered. So you probably need to answer these questions later. So
yeah.
Now let's talk about in the past year, this leading program has been online for almost a year, or more than a year. But last year people were daunted by the COVID-19. So could you talk about your story of overcoming the challenges from COVID, from the pandemic? Yeah, how do you cope with them? Now, Qing, would you like to talk first?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I got affected a lot actually. So I started working at the end of 2019, And then we start working from home from the start of 2020. And then at that time, I'm really new to this industry and really new to my teammates. And you know that when people work from home, they disappear most of the times. So every time I try to ask questions, I cannot find anyone. Yeah. And then luckily that my teammates are really supportive. That when I do a project with someone, like I tell my project design checker, I say I'm new and then I'm not sure how to do this. I have a lot of questions. So I may call you very frequently and they give me their phone number. So even though they are not, they are offline, I can still call them. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's my story.
Okay, good. I believe many people have some challenges during the working from home. Dr. Bo, would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. I think COVID has changed the life of almost everyone, but I guess as a IT professional, I guess it's the change is I guess subtle for us because we are kind of used to working remotely. So usually we use Teams, we use you know, video chatting to have all these stand-up meetings, have all these you know, client meetings. So we're kind of like getting used to it, and also because DXC is a multinational company, so when we talk to, you know, colleagues in US, we can't really fly there, so we use video chatting as well. So we're kind of like getting used to it. I mean, engineers probably a little bit different because you need to go to the site to look at the real stuff, so you can't really do remote work. But I guess I guess my vision is for a lot of these companies that can, you know, do their daily job remotely will probably have a transition from you know, go to office and work from there to working from home. I think as an engineer, you probably need to get to used to it. Maybe you will not fully work from home in the future, but I guess more likely you will probably spend 1 or 2 days working from home. It does actually save a lot of you know, commuting time or a lot of energy, you know, going outside. Of course, being work from home for a few months will make you a bit crazy because you're not really seeing people. I mean, people want to get out and get some social activities as well. So for myself, actually, my team usually primarily working from home, but we pick 1 or 2 days in a month to getting together, do some I guess do some activities together, or maybe just pick one day and you know, have meeting in office. So make sure that everyone's, you know, get engaged into the project. Yeah, so I guess it's the new norm, kind of. So I guess what you can do is get used to it, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, another Dr. Haiming, would you like to talk about your challenges? Did you lead your team remotely?
Yeah. It's quite a new experience for me, especially at the very beginning of COVID, the pandemic, you know, and like Bo just mentioned, you know, it's actually changed the norm of everyone's life. And at the very beginning, especially the first few months, it was quite confronting for me because, you know, I think our business was our business was impacted slightly, and I had to make, you know, 2 of my team members redundant. Probably none of you has ever experienced that as yet. It was a very confronting, and it's not a good feeling at all. But luckily, you know, I managed to find sort of like a reallocation for one of the team member within the big organization. But I couldn't like keep the another girl, you know, who was like a sort of like maternity replacement. It was very unfortunate, but yeah, I'm still trying to, you know, help her, you know, when I can. The thing is, it's very different, and managing like a team remotely is another challenge. I guess you're gonna need to trust your team member, and so we had like a sort of like a weekly catch up and make sure, you know, the assignments or tasks were allocated and implemented or reviewed properly. It was a very challenging, you know, period for me and also for the team member, but eventually we made it. However, I moved on to this new organization, you know, and because I got this opportunity, I was offered to come to this new organization, and I have been with this new organization for almost like 8 months, 7 months now. But I'm still seeing people in 2 dimensions, you know, for most of the time, and can't really meet them in person. We are talking about going back to office, you know, once or once weekly or once fortnightly. And our organization also have sort of like activities, coffee, roulette, and you will be they will sort of assign a partner with you. You can have virtual or actual coffee, you know, you want. Probably, you know, in your organization, you can consider doing something similar if you want. So I have already registered for that, and I haven't been picked up, you know, for the coffee as yet. But very keen on, you know, doing that very soon. Yeah, it has changed the norm of everyone. But a good thing I would say, probably, you know, you have like less commutation to office now, and I actually end up with more working hours every day. And I have like a more flexible working hours, and I can pick up, drop off my little one, you know, every day. So that's the plus. I would say that every coin has 2 sides, as you know. So it's hard to say, right? Yep, I guess that's it. Thanks.
I like that. Thank you. I like that. I like that. Every coin has 2 sides. I like that. Thank you. So, Nico, what happened to you? I think there's not so much bad happened to you.
No, for me, it was interesting. I guess everyone learnt a lot about themselves. I know for those of us in Melbourne, we were in lockdown for a very long time. I was in a unique position when this all started in March, that I was working on a highly confidential project. And because of the nature of it, nothing could go on the cloud at all. And at the time, Aecom wasn't used to so many people remoting in and didn't have the technology to support so many people working from home. So our office did actually stay open until about July. So I actually went into work with the 2 other people, or 1 other person that was working on the project with me, sitting 3 desks away from her. But it was a very strange, I guess, reality being in the office with 2 of us. It was very quiet. But when I actually started working from home, it did take me time to get used to it. But I think for me, I learned a new way to learn, if that makes sense. So previously, when you're in the office, if you have a question, you tend to turn to the person next to you, ask the question, get an answer, and then do it. And I realized that I wasn't really retaining a lot of the information that I was being given. So I really had to think about not only what is my question, but is it the right question? Where could I find information to maybe answer it myself? What do I think the answer is? And then I would set up a meeting with my manager or my project manager at the time to say, okay, by 4 p.m, that's the time that I'm meeting with them. I'll have to have something ready by then. So it was a new way of learning how to work. But for me, I think I gained quite a lot from that. And I'll say that how I approach work now, whether at home or in the office, I feel that I'm asking the right questions and I'm actually trying to find the answer. So I don't ask people, how do I do it? I ask, I think I do it this way. Is that correct? Or is there a better way? So for me, COVID provided that opportunity to learn how to learn better. But from the, I guess, the transition back into the office and the flexible working, similar to what Haiming said, it's great to be able to have the flexible working arrangements. For example, tonight or today, I work from home because I wouldn't have been able to get home in time to attend this session. So having that flexibility, and Aecom has been fantastic in terms of helping us set up at home, providing us some grants to be able to set up our workspace. But I think they've done it so well that not many people are going back into the office. So it's all about those incentives or those networks and wanting to actually see people in person. So I try to go in 2 or 3 times a week at the moment, but still keeping it at least 2 days at home, which is nice.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's spend some time to further questions about maybe job seeking. I think many people are waiting for this kind of questions. So here's a question for you, Qing. I hope you don't mind. So people are wondering, how do you identify your ideal job or ideal company? Could you talk about that? Because you are the, I believe you are the youngest among the panelists, maybe you share some opinions for young engineers.
Yeah, so I know I want to do structural work when I was in uni. So I'm really interested in those structural subjects. And in the fourth year, like we can choose whatever subjects we like. And I choose all structural subjects. Yeah. And then because I know I want to do structure, so I went to a lot of career expos. I feel career expos are really, really important. So you can talk to HR people face to face, and you can know what their company is doing, and then you can know their culture if it suits you. And also you can know their project they just win, and then you can learn about their graduate programs. So that's my first suggestion, is that try to do career expos. And the second one is that I have some local friends, and then they are looking for a job they were looking for a job at that time as well. So we discuss a lot, and I ask them what companies they are applying, and I try to apply the same ones. Yeah. And also there are a lot of jobs in Seek and Indeed. So, and also there are some websites like Graduate Connects. You can find all information there, and then you can look at their past projects, and you can look at their culture to find the one suits you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So now I would like to ask Dr. Haiming, because you have quite a long working experience. So in such experience, how do you find your ideal job?
To be honest, I don't really have a good answer to this question. I don't, to me, I don't believe there is, I shouldn't say that, sometimes you don't really know if it's an ideal job for you or not until you start doing it. And I guess the point is you need to find the point, or to find the sort of coupling, with your skills and then with the job you're doing. It's not easy, like what you say. I came to Australia with like almost 6-7 years overseas experience, and then I actually got my permanent residencies, before I came to Australia, and it was sort of like a reset for me. I was very determined back in the time, and then I sort of had a small transition in between. I went to uni to do my third degree, and I took the opportunity, to sort of like to expand my network slightly. And then actually, when I started my career in Australia, it wasn't really an ideal job, and like what you say for me. But I try to, like calibrate or try to calibrate the trajectory, if I can put it this way, or like try to bring my career path back to the track. I'm hoping, it could be. So I started actually, in Huawei, here, and I got an opportunity and then joined the Huawei. And I actually started, the first 1 or 2 months, I joined the RF team, the radio frequency team. It's not really anything about electrical. But after I joined the Huawei, I try to keep my eyes open. And once I knew there was an electrical engineer vacancy, pop up, then I applied for it and I joined there. So it's that's why, there is no such thing. I would say for myself, just personally, I don't believe there is a such thing as a perfect job or ideal job. It's more about how you're gonna marry your personal interest and your skill set with the job you're doing, and eventually try to bring it to your track. It's not going to be easy. Sometimes you might experience a lot of zigzags in between, but eventually, I'm hoping via this sort of a calibration, you're going to hit it at the right spot. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. I know many young engineers are looking at graduate program as their ideal choice. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the graduate program. So, Bo, would you like to share your understanding about it?
Yeah, so I think I haven't mentioned that that actually I started as a graduate in DXC as well, so a few years ago. So I guess graduate program is very good for most of people, because usually what you will get is a rotation of positions in a company. So you're not actually stuck into one row. You actually got the chance to try different things. That's very good for most of the people. And also, as a graduate, usually you got a lot of mentorship with the senior people in the company. So you can, quickly pick up the knowledge and also the skills that you need in different projects. Also, I guess other thing is usually in each of the cohort, you will have a lot of, other graduates. So you're going to have a very good network as well. So all these graduates in the future will probably be, a senior role in different companies. So if you can establish a very good network, it definitely will help your career as well. I'm pretty sure Nico has this kind of feeling. So he's still have the connection with previous, I guess, grads. So I think that's also beneficial. Apart from that, I'll probably talk about the procedures that get into the graduation program, because rest of you guys are from an engineering company, while I'm from an IT company. I'll probably just describe how IT company does the selection process as a reference, see if there's any difference. So usually you will submit your applications via internet, I guess, website, or sometimes via university career hub. So there's all sorts of channels that you can leverage to submit your application. Of course, the most straightforward one will just go to the official website and submit from there. And then usually you need to submit your resume, of course, and they will do a selection on the resume first. From my experience, just a little bit tips. So the company will actually not look at your resumes one by one. So what they do is they put the resume into an engine. Then what the engine will do is do a keywords search. So if your resume doesn't come up with enough keywords, then your resume probably be ranked low. Then you have less chance to be selected. And also, of course, another thing is to be selected as a graduate, you should have relatively good academic performance. What I mean by that is, of course, you have good mark in your courses. Yeah, that's something very critical, to be honest. So bear in mind with that, if you still early in your university study, so bear in mind, do your course well. That's critical if you want to apply for graduate program. And then after that, there will be a attitude test, which is basically you're gonna do a test online. So this one is mostly non-technical question. So there's from my memory, there's 4 parts. So verb, logic, behave, some kind of behavior, something. So it's basically it's non-technical, so it's different from company to company, but essentially that one just tests you have the basic I guess skills, basic logics, and certain English level. And after that, you will have an online interview. So back to our time, we're doing a video, so we record a video online, then this video will be sent to the company. I doubt that people actually watch that. I think they will probably use some technology to capture the keywords as well. But the thing here is, again, what they're trying to test you here is whether you understand what the company does or not. So make sure when you before you do the online interview, you look at the profile of the company, understand what they do, and potentially what kind of project they're currently doing. So if you really understand that, they definitely will add points. And then after all this kind of online test and online I guess interview, the last one you'll get is something called a assessment center. So this is the most, I guess, the hardest one for every graduate. Basically, all the candidates will go to like one office. They call it assessment center. Then it's quite intense. So you're gonna spend usually a few hours there. There's different parts of the assessment. So the first one you probably encounter is something called group presentation. So group presentation, basically you got a bunch of people coming together, and they will give you a topic, or sometimes you pick the topic, and then you give a solution to that topic or some issue, or maybe you can raise the issue in that sometimes the topic doesn't come with a question, and you need to come up with that question. And then you need to talk to different people, different candidates in the group. So it's kind of interesting because if as a group you like, if you don't as a group, if you don't work well, all the people in that group will be eliminated. And if you're doing well, I mean, if everyone's doing well, they still have low chance everyone will be in. So it's kind of like a dilemma there. So my suggestion here is be a listener. So that's my experience. Everyone will have different one. So be a listener, listen to what your teammates are talking about, and pick up any flaws or any points they did incorrectly, then fix it. That's a very a good strategy, I think. And then in the group, usually you will give 20 minutes to have a discussion. Then after discussion, you'll be given like 3 minutes to give a presentation to a panel, usually to interviewers. So that's one part. Then the second part will be an interview with could be your manager in the future, or could be a technical person. So it's usually an interview to test if you have the the skill set, or if you have the knowledge. And then it also have something we call a behavioral interview. I guess a lot of people know that. So, I mean, the strategy is STAR. So if you don't know what STAR is, go to any of the website and look up that. It's critical to deal with behavioral interview. In terms of the interview as a whole, I guess the most important thing is you need to resonate with the interviewer. So you need to talk about your skill and try to map the skill to the project they are doing. So in the interview, you usually will see that the interviewer talking about, oh, we're currently doing this kind of project. So back to the, I guess the interview I did a few years ago, they were saying, we're doing, we're doing an AI project in University of Newcastle. I was then, I was, cause I got some kind of similar experience or knowledge. So I was like trying to guess what kind of technology they're using. So if you can create that resonates with the interviewer, definitely you have very high chance to be in. And then the last thing is basically test your English skill. So make sure you can, of course, it's not an oral test, but it's a written test. So basically, you're given a test to write an email to. So you'll be given like an article. Then you need to make a summarize of what's in the article. Then write an email to I guess your supervisor. You actually mimic that kind of situation there. So that's the 3 parts you're gonna be testing in the assessment center. So make sure you, I guess, be prepared for that. I've seen a lot of people that doing assessments, they have done very well in, all the online interview or online assessment, but they failed assessment center for 3 or 4 times. That's normal. It's not easy, I'll tell you. Be prepared for it. Don't like it, okay, I passed everything, this is the last one, I definitely make it. It's not the case. Most of the people failed the last one. Yeah, so that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. It sounds quite similar to my understanding of the graduate program. So Qing, I would like to ask you, because from your experience of this graduate program, is it in line with your engineering application to Smec?
A little bit different. So based on my experience, the first step is to submit resume, your academic transcripts, and your CV, just via online website, their official website. And then we normally have phone interview, and then maybe video interview, and then we have face-to-face interview or assessment center. Yeah, so that's my experience. And for the interview, I have a little bit different experience, because based on what Wang Bo says, that he had some past experience and he need to align those experience with the project they are doing at the moment, the company is doing at the moment. But in my experience, they told me that they have no expectation. They assume graduate know nothing. So basically what they want to find is someone they can work along with, and someone they enjoy working with. So just be yourself and show them who the person you are, and then if they feel you are the right person, then they will invite you, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So now, Nico, I have tricky questions for you. So it's about time management and communication. I think many people have such difficulties. So from your experience, I can see you have multiple commitments. Maybe some of them are at the same time, as the same projects during the same period. So how do you manage it? How do you make a plan to accomplish each task in a very short period of time? And how would you communicate with your teammates about that?
Thanks, Sean. It is a really challenging question, especially when you're starting in the workplace for the first time and you've gone through all this, all the process to get the job in the first place, and you're so excited to be there. And I will say to those that have been through assessment centres, I fortunately didn't have to go through. I received a job through a cadetship program, which, just on a side note, some jobs you do get unconventionally. My very short spiel, that I got my job when I was 18 in high school. So it was a cadetship that was available for women that were finishing high school and wanted to study engineering. So I actually went into the interview at the age of 18 before I'd finished high school, and I took my dad to the interview with me, which in hindsight goes, what was I thinking? Wouldn't recommend. He just sat there and said nothing, but at the time it was a very big commitment, and I interviewed there and it included a graduate job. So I have full admiration for everybody going through the recruitment process. As Chujin said, and Wang Bo said, like it is intense, but it will be worth it. And it's just learning from each experience, the good and the bad. So when you're going through all of the assessment centres and all these questions and testing different abilities, as Sean mentioned, when you start in the workplace, there will be times where you're given 5, 6, 7 tasks to do, maybe for 5 different people, and it can be extremely overwhelming. So the first thing that I encourage everyone to remember is that when you start, you are a graduate. You're not expected to know everything. And the people that are giving you the tasks were graduates themselves. They may have grown up in a different time and with different experiences, but they know that you don't know everything, and that's okay. If I'm given a lot of tasks at once, what I'll do is, if I'm given a task, I'll ask them when I need to do it, when they need it done by. So it's really important to not just know what the task is, but know when they need it by. So in some cases, you may be given a task that needs to be done today, and sometimes it might be in 3 weeks' time. So by knowing a time frame, you can map out what needs to be done when. In saying that, if you get a position where 3 different managers have come to you and said, I need this task today, and you just go, what am I doing? Like, I can't do that. What I would recommend is just talking to them. Just telling them, these are the tasks that I've got on. These are the people I'm working with. If you can get them all together, fantastic, but probably it's not going to happen because they're all busy. So it's just being honest and saying, okay, I've got this task from Haiming, I've got this task from Xujin, this task from Sean. What do I do first? So I would look at it, especially when you're a graduate, sometimes it's not up to you to set the priorities. You need help, and that's okay. So asking your managers and saying, okay, I've got these tasks, which would you like me to do first? And it's just asking that question. And that way then you can breathe a little bit, de-stress a little bit about what you're doing, still work obviously to get the task done, but you've got more realistic expectations as to what's there. I did also want to touch on the question that's come through from Carmen around, I guess, having all these tasks and feeling the pressure to prove oneself. And this is something that I have done. This is something I'd say most graduates have done at some point, which is working long hours to try to prove yourself. To me, work isn't everything. I have a partner. I've just bought a new house. We're doing up the garden. I volunteer with a few different groups. There are other things outside of work. So putting 12, 14, 15 hours a day into work is not healthy, in my opinion. And you need to be able to draw the line, especially when you're working from home. You need to be able to shut the computer down and walk away. By prioritizing what you're working on, having open and regular conversations with your manager, you can set some realistic targets. And there will be some times where you need to work a bit longer to get something done, but you need to make a conscious effort to not allow that to happen regularly, because it can wear you down, it can burn you out, and it can be quite dangerous for your mental health. So for me, I make a point to work and to do the tasks that I need to in the time that I'm paid to be there. And if I am to work longer hours one day, I'll make sure I leave on time the next day. So they can fluctuate, it can change, but it is so important to be able to step back and stop work. And if you do need time or it's becoming too much, have a conversation with your manager. Let them know that you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. They're human and you're human. It's part of what we are, and it's not the expectation that if you work longer hours, you're a better engineer, because it's not necessarily the case. And I've seen at my previous organization, one of my colleagues worked 12 hours a day, and the managers actually thought that he wasn't the best engineer because he wasn't efficient. So by him putting in the extra hours actually worked to his disadvantage, because they thought he couldn't do it in the time that they thought he could, or he should be able to. So you can prove yourself with delivering the actions through having regular conversations with your managers and making sure that you're not overworking, because at the end of the day, we have a life outside of work and we need to take advantage of that as well.
Thank you, Nico. You combined a question from the chat. Yes, Haiming.
Sean, can I comment a little bit on here?
I was about to ask your opinion from maybe a senior or leader's point of view. Please.
I have been, thanks for that. I have been again lucky enough at both sides of multitasking I think you have very well said about this topic. I think I totally agree with what you say. So I think this is a trade-off between work hard and work smart. This is very important, for young engineer as a starter, in a career, probably you would like to take every possible opportunity to prove you. I have been there before. I have done that as well. And sometimes it's good, to be honest, for every single team leader, they like hardworking team members. I think every team leader will probably agree with me. But the thing is, you need to understand, especially when you are given like multiple tasks at the same time. You need to understand how you're gonna manage all of that. And a good thing, Nico has pointed out is you need to, because you're not Superman, right? You're not Superwoman. So you need to understand what you can do, and given the time and what sort of capacity you have, what sort of resources you have, and how much you can deliver. And I believe every team leader would understand, whether or not you can do it, So my previous experience is I try not to assign too much like a challenging works to young engineers. If I have to, I will clearly mention to them what's the critical point and what sort of pathway you need to follow to resolve this issue, and what sort of resources and where to get the resources. This is something I would, when I am passing any sort of like tasks to anyone, this is something I will always, send a message to them along with the task. But if any of the team members feel, okay, I'm overwhelmed, I can't really handle all of this, they will come to me and say, look, I got this 1, 2, 3 on my plate. Can you prioritize which one I should do first? Which one I should second. This is exactly like what Nico just said. I would encourage every single one of you, if you are you are sort of getting stuck in similar situation, this is something you need to communicate with your manager or your team leader. He or she, doesn't necessarily know what's already on your plate. So this is very, very important. So as probably something I would like to iterate a little bit here, just to make sure you don't burn yourself. I guess this is about working hard, and on the other hand, it's about working smart, right? In my last role, I got like about 10 electrical engineer under my direct supervision, and I can see they are working, in different styles, and they have different capacities and different skill set. Some of them, all right, after doing the same things, one or a few times, they will quickly summarize what the critical points are and how to improve the efficiency. And if there is any gap, any process that can improve, and they will come to you and say, okay, I feel there is a gap, we can close it together. I feel there's a process we can improve together. But some team members just keep following, that same pattern. And this sometimes can drag them to a point that I can't do this anymore. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, sometimes you need to work smart, not just working hard, right? You can, for the same amount of work, I can see different team members will spend probably, a wide range of time, to finish it. It's just very interesting. And you have provided them, the same training, but some of them, they just understand what's the critical point and how to manage them simultaneously. I guess this is very critical, but it takes time. It takes time to learn, and takes time to understand where the critical points are and how you're gonna get help, how you're gonna optimize your resources. So it's a very, very interesting topic. But yes, I would say, at the very beginning, probably you need to work hard sometimes, but I would encourage you, to work smart for most of the time. They're gonna give you the best life-work balance.
Can I add something?
Yes, please. You want to talk about work-life balance? Or?
No, I just say that
okay.
Some very young graduates, they are afraid to ask questions, so they spend hours trying to figure out how to do those models, how to do their calculations, but they can simply solve it by just ask the senior people. So I just want to encourage people to ask more questions. Don't be afraid to do that. It makes your life much easier.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It's definitely a very good point. I have seen people, spending like 1 or 2 days and doing something, like a sort of like a event and they did too. This example, or only thing they didn't do is asking the question.
Sorry, Haiming, I think your signal was not quite good. Could you please just repeat what you just said? Sorry for that.
All right. Is it a bit better now? Hello? Is it a bit better now?
Yes, it's better.
All right.
Please.
Okay. I totally agree with what Qing just said. I have seen one of my team members, spend about like 2 days, trying to solve one engineering problem. Is sort of like a reinvent the wheel. And actually we have done a lot of things, similar previously, designed similar previously, and we got a template set up already. And what he needed to do is just ask the question and grab the template. He can say probably, like 16 hours or so to do the job. Right. So asking the question, especially for young engineer, sometimes they just feel terrified or frightened to ask the question. They say, oh, if I ask this question, will I look stupid? But no, there is no such thing, right? For young engineers, you can ask whatever questions, but probably after 1 or 2 years, don't ask similar question again. But the first year, second year, I think you can ask whatever question you would like to ask. Most of the senior engineers, team leaders, they would accept that, they would tolerate that.
Okay, thank you, Haiming. I agree that there's nothing wrong to be the idiot in the room. You know, sometimes, especially in a meeting, even in an executive meeting, we need someone to ask idiot questions to figure out maybe it's the most principle of the issue. Yeah. Sorry, Haiming, I'm afraid I have to keep you talking because next question is for you, and I think it's quite special.
Yeah.
Because you have overseas experience, and many of us have similar situations that we may have overseas experience. Now we want to find a job in Australia. And so what's your opinion and what's your strategy? How did you use this experience to find your local job? Would you like to talk about that?
Yep. Thanks for the question. For me, I would probably say, you know, my case might be a bit special. I'm not sure it's going to be applicable to people, you know, in the same category. Yes, I did have like a, you know, 6-7 years overseas experience before I came here, as I mentioned earlier. I think at the very beginning, because I did try to expand my network, you know, when I was still in unit, and I try to like you know, get connected with my ex-friends, alumni, and colleagues, and just to sort of you know, to make sure, you know, my antennas are sticking out and knows what sort of opportunities are available there. And finally, I was sort of referred to a job, although it's not really relevant to my electrical engineering at the very beginning, but I accepted because I know I need to reset, and I need to gain a local experience as quickly as possible for me to back to the engineering field. So as I mentioned earlier, it was an offer for RF engineer, which wasn't really, you know, really my field, but I accepted. I know, you know, once I go into this organization, I would have opportunity to move to my field. And I was lucky enough after like about 1 or 2 months, and then I knew there was an opening, and I applied it, and you know, I sort of like combined with my you know, overseas experience and try to polish my resume and couple with the local, you know, experience, and then I got it, and then I got the position. So probably I think one thing I can learn here is, you know, try to expand our network as much as possible, and you don't know who can refer you to an opportunity. But once you got any sort of opportunity, try to stick on it at the very beginning, and then you can look around and find something more suitable, especially for those, you know, who came from overseas with some experience. It's not necessarily you're gonna find a perfect job at the very beginning, but as long as you start it, get a ball rolling, and the first job probably is the most difficult one for you. Once you get started, it will be.
Can I add to that, Sean? Just from what Haiming was saying.
Yep.
I completely agree, and I haven't come from overseas, and I understand there are differences in application processes and opportunities. Some require residency or citizenship, and some don't. But I guess just highlighting what you said, Haiming, around it may not be the perfect job, but just go for it anyway. I think we can, any opportunity that comes up, it's about the approach that you take. So if you are accepted into a job that you just don't think is really for you, just learn as much as you can anyway. take every opportunity to learn, to grow your knowledge, to grow your network, because you never know that how it may help you later on. So any opportunity, yeah, take it, enjoy it, and learn as much as you can.
100% agreed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you both. Now, I have to say thank you for this active discussion. Now I'm going to promote the leading program a little bit. So if you don't mind, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so, I'm sorry. Yeah, so dear audience, if you are interested, please consider the leading program and scan the QR code below to send your queries to our secretary. And here, sorry for not being quite professional, and sorry, Nico, for not being inclusive. But here is some testimony from our mentees. Here I can see Haiming's name. Okay. Yeah, another slides for that. Again, Haiming's name here. Well done. And here, just a reminder, if you're interested, you have secretary's code on the left and IC's official account code, LinkedIn group code on the right. So now let me to start the QA session. So let me find out the questions.
I started typing a response. It's all good.
Okay. So okay, I think here is a question for Haiming and Nico, for both of you. Maybe start from Nico. So it's saying, I have worked for nearly 2 years from graduate so far, and I'm considering to maybe a change to another job or to have a job promotion and a salary increase. So the question is, how long is a good time to consider a job change, and how many percentage could be the increase in a particular number to ask for? So
it's a really good question. And for me, I went through this I was in this exact position exactly 2 years ago. It was around the end of April 2019 that I was considering whether I should look for a different opportunity. So for me, I wasn't driven by promotion or salary. So it's firstly looking at or questioning what you actually want, what opportunities you want to be exposed to, what projects you're interested in working on. So for me, coming from a smaller company, I wanted to work on large scale projects with the opportunity to work overseas, pretty much were the two drivers. So I applied for a few jobs, interviewed at 3, and was offered 2 out of the 3 jobs. Now, I chose Aecom because of the sheer scale of the organization, and it's definitely not something, or it's something that I'm very happy with. But I will say that I actually took a pay reduction to come to work at Aecom, which I'd say for some of the larger companies, that is likely, that they do have pay scales that you work within. Wang Bo's nodding, he agrees. So for me, I'd really question, if you're 2 years from graduation, potentially look for the salary side of things if that's what's driving you, but really ask yourself, what opportunities do I want? What projects do I want to work on? And what company could give me that opportunity? So I'd start with that question first, and then look for companies that may provide you with the higher salaries to match. In terms of percentage salary increase, Haiming, that might be an area that you'd have more experience in, considering I took the job for a lesser amount. You're on mute, Haiming.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Thanks, Nico. Again, Nico very well say about the decision and timing about moving on. I think there is probably different industry might have different sort of like ecology. You know, some industry like telecommunication, you know, that people tend to move on very quickly. You know, depends on where the project is. But I guess the few things you need to look at: what sort of benefit is this gonna bring you? What it gonna bring to you? More salary, or like a larger project, or probably like a new technology, like in telecommunication, you got 5G, 4G to 5G, and depends on what sort of project you're working on 5G. Definitely, this is the cutting edge, technology, and it would like to be involved as quickly as possible. But in terms of the salary pay rise, it's hard to tell. It depends on how good your negotiation skill is. I have seen people, that got like a salary pay. Actually, one of my team member, he recently moved to Nokia, and his salary is almost like a more than 60% increase from what he got. Yeah. Yes, you would say, yeah, but it's about 60%, and he's so happy. But so it's hard to tell. Probably in a different industry might have different sort of like a percentage. Yeah, so typically, 10-20%. That's what I know. Average, sort of like a percent. I think it's fair enough for to make a move. Again, you need to look at the package. Some company might give you like $6,000 annually. You need to consider that as well. And some salary, some company might also give you package, with like a additional holiday, flexible working hours, and yeah, I guess there are so many things, so many factors you need to take into account, not just one thing. And probably when the times that coming, you'll be the right one to say yes or no. It's very attractive. I'm gonna accept it. No, it's all right. I would like to stay here. Yeah.
Yeah, more money definitely doesn't mean better job, I would say. I saw one advertised on LinkedIn yesterday, actually, that it was seemingly low, but included gym membership. I went, oh, that's strange, but sure. So every company offers different things. So assess what your priorities are. If it is about salary, it really depends on your industry. As Haiming said, in a similar space to me, in the sort of the construction, going to government or going to the alliance projects like Metro Tunnel or Northeast Link tend to have higher salaries, I've found, rather than consultancies.
Thank you. Yeah, you want to keep talking about it? Please.
You're muted again.
Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. I think you're right. It's like they're different industry, and sometimes it's the pay at a consultancy side is typically slightly lower compared to that in the client end. And I have done this as well, yeah. So when I make the move from consultancy side to client side, I think this is one of the biggest driven factor, that I had decided to take the offer, Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, if we don't have enough time to answer all the questions from audience, can I suggest that why not to build mentorship or at least connection on LinkedIn with our dear panelists, so you can keep talking, right? Now, I have another question about workplace conflicts. I think it's for Nico. So I think Nico, you are the star today.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah. So how do you deal with the conflict with your colleagues?
That is a really difficult one, Raymond. So I don't know whether to thank you for that or not, but conflict in the workplace can be challenging. There's a lot of different considerations, and conflict can happen in many different forms. So when you're at a smaller company, conflict can really define the atmosphere within the office. And I have experienced that before, and it can become extremely uncomfortable. So some of the ways I've dealt with this is firstly talking about it. So for me, when I'm unsettled or when I'm unsure or just upset about something, I will talk to my partner or I'll talk to my mum. And I just need to vent. I need to explain how I'm feeling. And they sometimes give advice and sometimes I don't want it. But sometimes you just need to let it out. Usually then, once I've settled down and understood how I feel about the situation at hand, there are two options, I guess. The first is a lot of organizations and companies will have what's called the EAP program, if people are aware of that, which is the Employee Assistance Program. So that's an anonymous service that employees can call and talk through the conflict and talk through different options from professional psychologists typically. So if you're feeling that you're not sure where to go, that is one option. The second would be to actually approach your manager and to, again, have an honest conversation with them to express what you're feeling, what you'd like to see happen potentially, and then being able to work through the steps. So it is very dependent on the situation, and I'd say there's no one right answer for dealing with conflict. But from the standpoint, there's the EAP program, there's going to your manager, and I guess the most direct way is if it's a personal sort of one-on-one conflict with a colleague, I'd probably ask to speak to them in person if possible, going out for a coffee and just chatting about it, sort of expressing, and you obviously have to feel comfortable to do that. You may not, but if there's an opportunity to just have a coffee with them, express what you're feeling and see if they're feeling the same way, honesty may help in that situation. But it is a difficult thing to do. So hopefully those three options will give you some idea.
Okay, thank you. I think it's about time. But before we wrap up, can I request every panelist to give just one takeaway, maybe no more than 3 sentences, okay, to our audience. Dr. Wang Bo, would you like to start?
Yeah, I think the takeaway we'll give is try to improve yourself at your spare time because you're still young. So if you feel like a job is not giving you a new knowledge or you feel like you're doing everything the same thing every day, it's probably the time for you to find a new job. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Qing?
My suggestion is to always ask questions, not only technical questions, but also your career path, just your personal issue, like anything, you can ask questions. Yeah. And also life is more important than work. Do not overworking.
Okay, Haiming, please.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to share with everyone is, when you are solving any engineering problem or even like a personal life problem, try to zoom out a little bit sometimes. So basically, when you're working in the context of engineering problem, you're working with your team or team team members to achieve an optimal outcome or find the best available values of the engineering problem, but subject to a set of conditions or constraints. You know, when you work with the multiple discipline, each discipline is trying to solve an optimization problem of its own. But for individual discipline, you might have multiple options, but overall the option will be much fewer. Therefore, sometimes you just need to step back a little bit and see how you can help the team as a whole to resolve the issue. But make sure you don't stand back too far away and looking at the problem with your binoculars. Otherwise, you might easily lose your focus, right? And also, when you are learning to solve the problem from a holistic perspective, you will understand more about how business is operated, and you will also gradually build up your leadership. And I hope this makes sense to everyone. Yeah, I guess zoom out a little bit, you know, when you're solving any problem.
Thank you, Haiming. Nico, what's your takeaway?
Everyone's points have been so great. I guess from my standpoint is enjoy work. As simple as that. Work is a big part of our lives. It takes up a lot of our time. So find opportunities that excite you, that you can learn from, and just enjoy yourself. For me, I love being an engineer. I'm so proud to be an engineer. So just enjoy the opportunity that we have to work, and yeah, enjoy and learn from every opportunity.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you, everyone. Now, our dear audience, before you go, can I request you to, if you are feeling comfortable, please turn on your camera so we can wrap up with many smiles on screen and take some screenshot. You can share this on your LinkedIn, on your WeChat, right? Please turn on your screen. And smile, please. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I also appreciate our panelists for sharing such good opportunities, experience, and I encourage you to keep talking with them, connect to them. Okay. I hope you also enjoy this event, and remember, ICEA will organize more events for you. Just let us know what you want. Okay, keep talking, keep sharing, keep learning. And yep, thank you everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
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 Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.